Hey there guys, it's Salis, and welcome to another I'm Bad at This review. This week we're looking at the PC port for DMC Devil May Cry. A game so nice they named it twice. But let me first of all show you what happened the first time I installed this game. This is what I was treated to the first time I installed it, and after some research I found out it was a unique problem. But after 2 more installations I finally got a camera which behaved itself, which is a major plus compared to previous Devil May Cry PC ports where you were fighting the camera all the way. So with that rant out of the way, let's get on with the review. First of all, let me get this out of the way. I do not like the new look of Dante. Not as much as I did the old one. But that's more likely because we'd seen classic Dante for so long that any change at all would have been jarring to anyone. That being said though, the look of the game is nothing short of stellar. The environments are very interesting, in particular the massive difference between the physical realm and Limbo, where you shift from fairly organised, boring human environments to the blue-orange psychedelic Limbo where gravity doesn't matter and the whole world warps and twists around you. I also like how it shows how things damaged in the demon world are damaged in the physical world. This is particularly well shown in a cutscene where a demon launches a Ferris wheel down a pier, and it cuts to show humans running in terror. And at the end of the game, where after killing a big demon, a city is left in burning ruins. And speaking of the demons, enemy variety is also something rather impressive. I mean, as with all games, there will be reskins, and there are a few of these, but for the most part, there is decent variety in enemies, ranging from small annoying flying things to massive twisted monstrosities, each with their own set of tactics. Maybe you have to rip a shield off one and break another's force field before you can hit them, and this is clearly indicated by their design. So there's very little confusion between them. But let's talk about the one thing that no spectacle fighter would be complete without: bosses. There are a total of 6 major bosses in this game, each one getting more and more monstrous as the game goes on, with the last boss being the most hideous monster of them all, but I'll cover that later. The boss arenas are diverse and interesting, and the only problem I have with them is they have far too much indication of how to beat them. Angel Lift and Demon Grab icons blink at you from 50 feet away as if to say, "Hey dumbass, here's how you kill this one, get a move on." But design is nothing without sound, and this game continues the Devil May Cry series history of having a badass soundtrack. Mostly dubstep club tunes. However, just like every other Devil May Cry, all the music seems to blend together, especially with one particularly annoying backing track being used over and over again to the point whereby it becomes annoying. But the music is often buried in the mind by the voice acting, which is a bit hit and miss in places. Dante's new voice actor I don't feel delivers a stronger performance as his previous one, but Virgil's does an absolutely fantastic job. I realise Dante has spoken far more in the series than Virgil, but we played an entire game as Virgil, namely Devil May Cry 3 Special Edition, and I honestly think his voice acting in past games was not as strong as it is now. But that being said, we're back to the 3rd member of this demon-slaying cabal, Cat. Her voice acting isn't very strong, but I wasn't expecting much from such a throwaway love interest who from what I can see is only a woman for the sake of having a woman. And enemy voice acting is also a bit of a hit and miss bag. I mean, Mundus the big bad demon king sounds less threatening than his news anchor lieutenant, who, with only a few words spoken, made me instantly hate that character. And I was far more happy after killing him than killing the king. Even the first boss has a more intimidating performance, with a voice that sounds exactly like as if hell was speaking directly to me using this hunter as a proxy.
How come I can see you clearly?
But by far the worst enemy voice acting comes from the succubus. She doesn't sound threatening. She sounds like a drunken spinster pretending to be a witch at Halloween. It tries so hard to be scary that it just makes me laugh. But voice acting does not a video game make. The sound effects are also a key asset, and it's really good. It's where true magic lies. I mean, the guns sound really good, especially the kablooey. The shotgun is the only gun that's like neither here nor there. It sounded oddly reminiscent of the shotgun from the first game, but the devil arms sound truly epic. Dante's trademark blade Rebellion sounds very good as it slices through a rotten corpse or slamming mightily to the ground like a meteor. And the Arbiter follows suit. It literally sounds like how it looks and feels, a mighty weight summoned from the very bowels of the pit, thundering into enemies and shaking the ground around it. And the Eryx, or should I say Beowulf, or better yet Gilgamesh, really does give the impression of being an unstoppable force as it punches through walls, making a thunderous sound, pounds enemies into the floor with a huge crash, and of course, this brings us to the, I hate to use this phrase, but it's the only one that fits, angel arms. The Osiris sounds very good. It generally sounds like it's whipping through the air at incredible speeds, and its collision with enemies sounds like it literally is having no problem slicing them up and bouncing them off the edge of the blade with no effort. And the Aquila sounds very similar, but that kind of suits it since both are angelic weapons and both are lightweight and very, very fast. But Aquila's round trip attack does sound rewarding, as you hear kind of behind you a stun-locked enemy taking 300 hits a second for the duration. And finally, the Orphean Whip. While not actually a weapon, you use it as much as one, therefore bringing upon it my judgment. This can have both an angel form and a demon form. There are no separate sounds between the two, and as a result it sounds very mechanical. I mean, if you're going to use a mechanical sound, it might as well have been all-purpose hook shot. But on the whole, the sound is generally good, and it goes well towards the gameplay. But the problem with the gameplay is it's too easy. I beat the entire game on Nephilim difficulty, which is the first available hard mode, in 7 hours, not including time spent getting the game to work. And I never needed to increase my health or devil trigger even once. Enemies telegraph their attacks so obviously they might as well be yelling into an empty steel bin, frequently flailing around for a good few seconds and glowing bright yellow, a colour which stands out from the twisted blues, oranges and reds of Limbo, thus making dodging as simple as walking away slowly when they start to glow a bit. This easy dodging causes the game to give away S ranks for combos like Halloween candy. And instead of the counter steadily draining over time, you lose style points only when you get hit, which is rare to begin with. But one thing I am grateful they've done away with is Dante's style system. I never liked the idea of constantly having to change stance to do the most damage, when a simple trigger pull could change to a weapon which accurately impersonates the old style system. Osiris is basically Swordmaster, Arbiter kind of acts a bit like Royal Guard, but I'm stretching it a bit. But that being said, what is with Devil May Cry and Gauntlets? So far we have seen the same weapon in the last 3 games. It was Beowulf in Devil May Cry 3, Gilgamesh in Devil May Cry 4, and now it's renamed Eryx. And while they all handle the same, punch dude, charge up to punch dude harder. I realise there are only a certain different number of melee options available, but we have a sword, an axe, a scythe, spinning blades. Why not, for example, a big demonic burning hammer? See, there's an idea. But that aside, gameplay is very fast and fluid, and it is fun. If it's not a bit easy and challengeless. But that might be because Ninja Theory were more interested in setting up the alternative universe with a strong story, getting it established and founded. And speaking of the story, or should I call it, look how much we like cutscenes. The story in this game is handed out mostly in cutscenes and not so much through gameplay. And there are a lot of them. Dante sees something, cutscene. Virgil wants to say something, cutscene. Cat does anything, cutscene. I can see why they're useful, because it's trying to get the story over while at the same time having a powerful overtone of social satire with no subtlety. I get that they want to reference popular culture, but you don't need to throw it into our face. With a story focus, they have actually characterised a lot of our favourite characters, which is no mean feat. Dante has always been all style, no substance. But it's nice to see them try and give him depth and try to explain why he cares so much about humans, which to him are a lower species. But this doesn't explain what they did with Virgil. They removed all honour from him. And this was, and still is, considered quintessential to his character. Even when he was an evil Darkslayer, he still had honour, and in this game he shoots an unarmed pregnant woman in the back, watches her stare at the destroyed fetus, and then shoots her in the head. He completely ignores Kat at the end as if she did nothing, despite how many of the cutscenes show her doing more than him. And as for Kat, she seems like she's a woman just for the purpose of giving the protagonist something to lust over, and would have been equally interchangeable with a psychic dog. She seems at times more like she's holding the mission back, especially when she starts impersonating Daphne from Scooby-Doo and gets captured. But the biggest flaw in the story comes from Mundus. Granted, they've tried to write a way for a demon to logically take over a human world unnoticed, but death? Really? Is that how demons control the world, by making people poor, instead of being able to, I don't know, destroy a city with a thought? Which he actually does later in the game. I would be more likely to bow down to our new demon overlord if he could kill me with a look rather than putting the price of cigarettes out of my reach. I'm not going to give any more spoilers, but there's an obvious Futurama reference in there for you to find, and I suppose that sets the tone for the story. It's a series of references woven together to make a storyline. Don't get me wrong, it kinda worked, but it still could have been much more. I like the fact they made Virgil the end boss, because we have been saying for years our own species is the most monstrous. And this is the Devil May Cry equivalent, with the Nephilim being both angel and demon, and therefore a hideous blend of the two extremes. But above all, my biggest problem with the story is the cutscenes. Or at least the bulk of them are recorded in the game's engine. As a PC gamer, I got the Costume Pack DLC for free. Yes, this had Day 1 DLC. Feel free to start the ceremonial fire. And one of the costumes was a classic Dante skin. And being the Olympic Village idiot of game journalism, I decided to play the first one as classic Dante. Thus, in my mind, rendering the wig joke in Mission 1 I had heard so much about pointless. But lo and behold, the pre-recorded cutscenes feature new Dante, therefore making the costume pack just a system for breaking immersion faster than a rocket-propelled breeze block fired through a church window. And for a game with a story over gameplay focus, this is not good. What is good, however, is the controls. The PC port is as your standard keyboard and mouse setup, which are good but still not a favourite for me. You see, when I play a spectacle fight, I want to sit back in my chair and use a pad. And the pad controls work great. They're just as responsive as the keyboard, with the added advantage of analog movement. I find it far easier to dodge out of a large pack of enemies in a pinch when I have a choice of 360-degree exit strategies as opposed to 8 directions. So to conclude this relatively short section, the controls are amazing. As for its optimization, the PC port, unlike its console cousin, does not limit itself to 30 frames per second. So on my big rig, I'm getting some very fluid frame rates and awesomely smooth animations. On my mid-range laptop, however, I still get some fluid movement, but the frame rate does chug a bit when things on the screen get busy, such as when things are breaking apart around you, or in one boss fight where the screen gets a little crowded. And yes, I'm playing these on the maximum settings I have available for the perfect test. But once again, I haven't been able to test it on anything lower, so just bear that in mind. But where this game shines like the sun is, as with all of its predecessors, the replay value.
I don't know my mother, but if you're
this game has tons of reasons to go back. First of all, the game needed repeated runs to get enough orbs and upgrade points to unlock every ability in maxed health and devil trigger. Not that you need these for the lower difficulty settings, but it's always there. Secondly, in order to unlock the higher difficulty settings, as with many spectacle fighters, you need to beat the game on the previous one. And higher difficulties include a mutual insta-death mode, and a mode where enemies are harder than diamond nails, but Dante is made of toilet paper and glass. And with the promise of Bloody Palace mode to come, which is something I'm very much looking forward to, I am sure there'll be hundreds of soulless thralls posting their scores online and rushing back to the PC to replay the game for 72 straight hours, just so they can be on top after beating the person who beat their score by 1 point. So, in conclusion, my final verdict on this game is it's good. It is a recommendation. The tight story focus does give the characters some personality, and if you'll excuse some of the voice cast, the rest will be a real treat for anyone playing. And if you want an easy way to kill a few hours with some seriously fun replay value, interesting boss fights, and a whole heap of other stuff, I'd get it, because it's well worth the money. But I'm giving this 2 scores. First, as a fan of the Devil May Cry series in general, and second, as someone totally new to the franchise who wants to know the beginnings of the story and where everything kind of sits. Devil May Cry veteran score, 5 out of 10.
Wonderful. Can't wait.
New player score, 8 out of 10. So, thank you for watching my review of DMC Devil May Cry. I've been Salis. This has been an I'm Bad at This review, and I will see you next time.
Place anywhere, anytime, and when you least expect them.
We have your scent, son of Sparta. Now it is just a matter of time.